Studio with the Admiral Bill Stubblefield, also former Berkeley County Commission president, as we roll out the Friday Five.
Rob, it's great to be here. Always fun, especially on Friday.
Pleasure's mine, Bill. And everybody else's.
Yeah.
Everybody else, too. And our remaining cast and crew of the Friday Five includes the longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carr, former tax commissioner of the great state of West Virginia. Michael, welcome back.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Good to have. How are the Cardinals doing this week?
They're above the Pirates, but they're still toward the bottom of the division.
Yeah, above the Pirates speaks for itself, doesn't it?
It means you don't have anything to brag about.
Yeah, everybody except for I think Colorado was like 4-25 or 4-26 last I looked. I don't know how you'd be worse than the Pirates, but they have been. Also in studio, Larry Schultz, who's playing hurt today. Larry, good morning.
Yeah, great to be here.
What was your story?
I had a little tussle with our friend, Mr. Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
And apparently it's kind of a bad year for it because of the weather conditions. It's kind of extra oily this year.
Oh, good.
And I cut down a pine tree that had a vine wrapped around it, never thought about it even twice, handled the wood 3 or 4 times, and I woke up the next day and my arms look like they've been attacked. And luckily, the miracle of modern steroids is helping me do everything but sleep at night. So
Larry is doing some one-arm concentration curls just to take advantage of all the steroids he's on right now. Just trying to buff up a little bit, too.
One of my arms will turn out to be bigger than the other one. That'll be a little awkward.
Yeah, did you get it anywhere else but your arms?
No, there's a couple of incidental spots. Well, one spot along my face I probably wiped away some sweat with my gloves that I was wearing, and that was enough. My eye was kind of swelled shut yesterday morning when I got up, and that was the key to going to the urgent care and getting it taken care of.
Thank goodness for urgent care, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had my own fun with that about 4 years ago, and I don't wish to go back to those days. Because when I get it, it's 28 days like clockwork, start to finish. It doesn't matter what I do, what I apply, what shots you get. I'm going to have it for 28 days.
Wow.
28 long, miserable days. Via telephone, Joey Torts Ferretti. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. When I was clearing my property after building a home there off of Tuscarora Pike years ago, I had a bunch of poison ivy in the yard, and I get it terribly. So I hired somebody to come out and say, try to eradicate this and help me clear this property. And so we're out there working, and this guy says, the key to dealing with poison ivy, do you know what it is? And I said, no. He picked a leaf off of the poison ivy plant and ate it. I almost fainted when I watched that. And this guy said he never gets it. So
that's not the key.
Brave enough to try that home remedy. Let me know how it goes.
As Bill knows, never is a long time.
Before I'll not go into the full story. I did this right before we went on air, Joe.
Oh, go ahead and tell it again, Bill.
Okay. Yeah, as a kid, we did the same thing. We chewed it, never had any problem, and I thought I was immune to it. I was doing some graduate work Iowa years ago, and I was in a quarry working all morning, no shirt on, short pants. And a couple of girls had just gotten the driver's license, had driven up to the quarry, and got in trouble. So they needed someone to tow them out. The wrecker came and said, "I'm not going to touch them. It's touch the car, sitting in poison ivy." Like an idiot, I said, "No problem. I used to chew it as a kid. Would not get into it. No, it doesn't bother me." So I crawled in the car, hooked it up. Again, no shirt, short pants, and went back to working doing my field work. That night, it hit me like you wouldn't believe. The point is, Joe, once you reach a threshold, it's going to hit you, and it never gets any better. Every time it gets worse and worse and worse. So just because your buddy chewed leaves, I did the same thing, but not anymore. You just show me a leaf 15 feet away, and I start breaking out.
Yeah.
When Bill was younger, he would ask for extra poison ivy on his salad at the restaurant. Yeah, throw a couple of leaves there. Yeah. No problem. I'm not. I don't react to it. Also, Mike Allers Jr. is here as well, and he's in the Mike Height seat. Mike, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. This is the second Friday panel, I think, in a row.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Any poison ivy stories?
No poison ivy
keep
stories.
Keep it that way.
I don't even have salad stories. I've never eaten a salad in my life. So
is that right?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it that way.
You've never had a salad in your life?
No.
That's impressive.
Pointless.
You have poison ivy. You have a poison ivy reaction to lettuce or anything?
Why? Just go for the main course. That's kind of
Skip the play.
yeah, exactly.
Go give Larry a big hug. We begin the show each week with Mr. Joseph Joey Twitz ready in the leadoff chair. Joe, you are on.
Well, with all that's going on in the state and the country, I pick an issue that perhaps is a little esoteric, but I think it's going to be an important one coming down the pike. There is a recognition worldwide and in this country that we are currently living through the greatest population bust in history. The birth rate in this country in 1950 was 3.1 births per childbearing woman. We are now at 1.6. In 1960, a year before I was born, there were 24 births per 1,000 people. In 2020, that number shrank to 12 births per 1,000 people. In order to replace the people who are dying off in this country, we need 2.1 births per childbearing woman just to replace ourselves. We're not there. And now we're suddenly feeling the effects of that, and it's only going to get worse. There's a worker shortage in this country. We've got 8 million job openings presently and only 7 million people who are unemployed. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce will tell you that if every unemployed worker got a job tomorrow, we would still have millions of jobs unfilled in this country. And we know what's going to happen. These social scientists who study this say that societies collapse when you don't replace yourself, when you don't have people coming up through the ranks who are going to work, start businesses, be a part of innovation. This country is staring that in the face, as are other countries across the globe. So what is the answer here? Well, the Trump administration recently talked about pronatalism, which are policies that the federal government can institute to encourage people to have babies. And President Trump went so far as suggesting that maybe we pay women $5,000 for every child that they bring into the world. And there's other policies in place that the federal government's looking at to encourage people to have children. But I think the solution is actually staring us right in the face if you're looking across the southern border. There are scores of people, as we know, who, despite all that's going on in this country, they still want to come here. They still want to immigrate. They still want to become a part of this country, become U.S. citizens, work here, play here, start businesses here. There are plenty of people who want to do that. And for this country to take advantage of that, relative to other countries in the world, we have a pool of people who are willing to come here right now if we only had immigration policies that would encourage them to do so. What we see in this country right now are mass deportation efforts and people being rounded up and sent off to foreign lands, countries that, frankly, that they've never lived in before. But we see no effort at immigration reform. Where is the Trump administration? Where is Congress? Where is anybody? Where's the Democratic Party right now talking about immigration reform? There is nothing going on in that process. And that is discouraging because that is the answer in part to a shrinking population. In 1900 to 1915, when my family immigrated to this country, 15 million immigrants in that 15-year span came to the United States, more than the previous 40 years. Now that immigration, that fueled the Industrial Revolution. These people came over, worked the mines, worked in steel mills, worked the factory jobs that our current president wants to try to restart. These people built this country, and they were instrumental in getting us to the levels of prosperity we enjoy today. Think about the number of people who came in. If we extrapolated that to today's U.S. population, that would mean that we need 65 to 70 million immigrants in a 15-year period. In the last 15 years, we've only brought in 20 million. So I think the answer is right there at the southern border. If this federal government would ever get its act together and get an immigration policy that makes sense. So my question this morning is the answer to this collapsing population issue in this country, is it making more babies, or is it bringing people into the country who currently are living and want to be here?
Joe, good topic. I saw that figure last week, that 1.6 figure, and it reminded me as well about, I think maybe it was 60 Minutes. I'm not sure which show I saw this on, but in Japan, there are 2 deaths for every birth, and they're projecting economic ruin as a result of this. And in this country, where you still have the baby boom aging through their Social Security years, you need younger workers to pay into that system in order to meet those obligations, and we don't have those younger workers right now. Mike Allers Jr., let's start with you first.
Yeah, I'm chomping at the bit at this. I think the main problem is is that our society is not backing up our young men and our young women. And I think when it comes to, I don't think the Trump administration is wrong in suggesting that maybe we should give cash to mothers. However, it needs to be, I think it should come with some sort of precautions, or else you don't want people to turn into puppy mills, essentially, right? But the problem is, as someone who's pro-life, we have a family leave problem in this country, so we don't have family leave. We don't have accessible childcare for our young people. Our conditions are that millennials and Gen Z, we make less than our previous generations. So that means the mother can't stay home at work. Now, there are other countries where if you are a stay-at-home mom, you get a check, and I actually think you should, because that's a job in and of itself, right? But we don't have these kind of social programs in place. On top of that, you have a crisis where I believe there's a figure amongst Gen Z men in America, 65% have never asked out a girl. And in Japan, they're hooked to porn and not getting together. And
robots.
So
yeah.
For me, it's like,
troubling.
We need to, I think, invest in our young people, invest in family leave, we don't even have paternity leave. And West Virginia, by the way, is getting hit the most, because we have so many people dying. Not a lot of people are moving in, and we could means test these programs here to see if maybe they could take hold nationally.
All right, good points, Mike Allers Jr. Bill?
Let's harken back to what China did 40 years or so ago. They discouraged having families. If you had, you're limited to one child. In many cases, if the child was a girl, they would kill or abort if they knew it was going to be a girl, and so a single child was generally that of a male. China very quickly realized that was taking them down a path they could not sustain. So now they
can't have a country of all men for long.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So they like a lot of countries have encouraged larger families. But Joe raises 2 or 3 points. One is that with the southern border, we have the immigrants have a bad name. It's as soon as you mention illegal immigrants, folks go ballistic on it. But in reality, these people pay taxes, either by withholding tax or Social Security. Rarely do they receive anything in return. So it is improving our revenue stream with the taxes. But they don't look like what we think we should look like, therefore we're not going to accept them. The other thing is with children, with poor families, we don't encourage poor families to have children. We do not provide child care. We do not provide, we discourage childhood immunization. There's a list of things that we do not do to encourage our poor families to procreate and have children. I think we do live in a world of hypocrisy. We want everything to grow, but we want it to grow the way that we remembered as a child. We wanted that to be the growth pattern. That's not necessarily going to be the way it's going to happen in the future.
Mr. Carl.
Well, first of all, if the threatened decline of population, it sounded to me like it was based on worldwide factors, not just local.
It's everywhere in Western countries.
Right. Well, it's not just in Western countries. Some of those biological issues are inherent throughout all of the world's population. So that's needs to be addressed directly, and national policy adjustments are a separate issue and are totally sound to me like totally at the mercy of a success to reduce the decline, the general decline of world population. So you need to keep those things in context, I think, as you approach it. But you actually, by raising this issue, you've already answered one of mine, which was there some policy issue that led Biden to open up the border, and so I won't use that one for my main issue.
But you got your answer.
There it is.
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah. First of all, $5,000 for a baby is like $8 for a $50,000 Ford pickup. I mean, it's such unbelievable chump change. I don't want to be too crude about this, but only people who are not very smart will think that's a deal. Are those the people we want to grow our population
unless
with?
it's by month, right? Unless it's by month, then you know.
$5,000 a month.
$5,000 a month. Yeah, I mean, it's very expensive to raise a child, as most people listening to the sound of my voice will be able to confirm for you. And $5,000, I mean, you can pay that for a cooktop range. I mean, it's just not even a serious thing to say. And we are not going to be able to purchase the livelihoods of people for that kind of chump change. And anyone who says, ooh, I wasn't ever going to have a baby, but now I got to have one for that $5,000. Those are not people that we want to have big families. I'm sorry, but if their logic is no better than that, what are they going to teach those kids? Joe is on a very good point here. We do have a way of finding out before people come here whether they are a risk. Forcing them to sneak across the Rio Grande in the middle of the night is a stupid way for us to do this. Instead, we need to open up the channels to allow good, hardworking people who are looking for a better life to come here and find one. Sure, there are international reasons why you can't touch all of that. But actually, that creates an advantage for us, because as everybody else would be losing population, we will be gaining it. The other point is, these folks, a lot of them, will have more babies than the average American would. In other words, most people are like, I got 2 kids. I don't think we want to have any more. Snip, snip, right? We'll get this done with. Other cultures have different viewpoints of that. And if there is a way to financially, through wages and job security, incent people to build bigger families, that's what we have to find a way to do to cure this problem. And I guess what I meant to say a minute ago was, as the whole world faces this lack of population, if we're relatively gaining, then maybe there are some things we can do. In the meantime, we have such a labor shortage that the Trump administration's idea to bring all this manufacturing of goofy little widgets back to the United States isn't going to have anybody to do the jobs. They aren't going to have enough labor force to do the jobs unless we start bringing in people not from delivery rooms, but from other countries.
But we need to be selective.
Right.
That's what it sounded like.
Ronald Reagan was one of the greatest champions of immigration ever. And the Republican Party has just punted that whole set of ideas out into left field.
But don't you think it's cultural too, guys? Like because we don't have. I mean, there's a shift right now that Gen Z is moving back towards blue collar, but we are moving away from. For years we've encouraged people to go into these blue collar factory jobs, or as Joe was saying, the immigrant miner jobs. Back in the day, we discouraged everybody to pursue those jobs, to go to college and think that was the only way to start a family. And now you also have this movement amongst my generation where they're the dinks, the dual income, no kids, and that's like a flex to people. So it really needs to be a cultural shakeup if we want to solve our problem too.
But let's go back to Joe's basic question about the larger families. And Mike Carl just used a word that I think is what the administration is trying to do. And I'm not picking on you, Mike, but it was the word that you used, and that was selective. They want to selectively grow the families, but by the definition, they want to deselectively not encourage certain growth in families. We've seen this before. We've seen this in other areas, such as in Germany in the 1930s, where they wanted to selectively grow a type of family, but not let the other demographics within the country grow at all. In fact, they were trying to discourage them. They were getting rid of them by various ways. I'm a little troubled that we are going to selectively grow people that we remember as our childhood. The other demographics have things that they can offer, they can contribute, but there's not an encouragement right now to incorporate these folks.
Joe, comes back to you for the final minutes.
You're right on, Bill. In fact, this plan that Trump proposed where in addition to a green card, an immigrant could obtain a gold card and a path to citizenship that is accelerated if that immigrant could only show that they're willing to invest up to $5 million in the startup of a new business or some kind of investment in the country. I mean, that's the kind of immigration that is sought by certain people in power right now, and that's not the answer. My grandmother came. I'm looking at a picture on my wall of the ship that my great grandmother came over on in 1910. She had $20 in her pocket, but she had a work ethic and she had a desire to be here. And she made something of herself, and for generations to come, I'd like to think we continue to do that. That's what we need, and we've got a pool of people across the southern border who want to come here. The competitive advantage that this country has is that it's still appealing to a large swath of people in the world that want to come here. All we need is a policy, a program in place to get these people in here with their skills and their energy to make something of themselves and to help this country, rather than these hackneyed ways of trying to encourage people to have more babies. So I hope the federal government will get down to business and let's go back and look at the Biden policy on immigration, and let's start there, which had more border security and a better pathway for people to become citizens. Let's at least start there and see if we can't get people to come here and help, because it is a real advantage for this country still, and relative to the rest of the world. And I think we should take a full stock of it going forward.
I think it's a growing advantage, actually.
As always, good leadoff. 2 points on the way out. Did anybody else here squeeze a little tight when Larry was talking about population control and said snip, snip? Because I had to cross my legs on that one.
Well, if you've been through it, it's not so bad.
And the other one was when Freddie was talking about his family coming here from the old country. This is all I heard in my head.
There you go.
You got to be careful who you let in, Joe. Yeah. Hey, all right, we are with the Admiral on deck. Coming up next, this is Talk Radio, WNR Martinsburg, and TV 10 more on the Friday 5 after these. Thank you, Joe. Well done. Let's welcome in the rest of our Friday panel as well, including Mike Allers Jr. Welcome back.
Hello, hello. Good
to have you here, sir. Mr. Mike Carl, longest tenured member of our crew.
Good morning.
He is an attorney at law himself, Lawrence Schultz.
Great to be here.
and with issue number 2, a retired admiral and former president of the Berkeley County Commission and a frequent co-host on this program, the Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Thank you, Rob. This past week was the 100th day of President Trump been in office, and there's been a lot of press given the success or failures of the 100 days. At a speech in Michigan this past week, President Trump said, "We have delivered the most profound change in Washington over the last 100 years." The stock market decline, he said, was due to his predecessor, and says too early to see the benefits of tariffs. In Michigan, he claimed his approval ratings were in the 60s and 70%. Volatility in the economy is what he campaigned on. His Secretary of Treasury said everything is on track to deliver what he had promised, saying that China will eat the tariff cost rather than escalating the prices. So there's and the cabinet member this past week, with 100 days, each one of the cabinet members got up and basically parroted the same thing that the treasurer said. On the flip side, there's a lot of polls out that said that President Trump is unusually unpopular for a president, for a new president in the first 100 days. 44% popularity today, 51% when he first took office. The numbers are the lowest for a new president since Eisenhower. NPR Meredith's poll says 45% gives him an F, 32% in the first term. 32% gave him an F the first term, and others as well. Most of the major things he's doing is unpopular. 64% of the people disapprove of the tariffs. 72% believe his economic policies will lead to recession. Even his border security, 55% approve of his border security, but 62% do not respect the immigration policies he's put into place. Many folks believe he's rushed into making changes without considering the impact. So there's a bunch of statistics, a bunch of polls that run counter to what the president and his support base say. I realize this topic is going to be viewed in the eyes of the beholder, and there's going to be two different views. That's the reason I'm putting it on the table, knowing there's going to be split reasons or split explanation for the success or the failures. I think there's probably truth on both sides.
So what is the specific question you would like these folks to bet about?
Yeah, I had it embedded. I forgot my specific question. My specific question is the 100 days, first 100 days of President Trump, a success or a failure?
Mr. Michael Carl.
Well, it certainly is not a failure. And now, as I've said many times, Trump's personality, he's not someone that I'd like to, hang out with. Be a friend to and spend time with, but his substantive policy agenda is awesome, certainly when compared to the other side, and the ebb and flow of these polls, and I'm very cynical about the accuracy, the true accuracy of these polls. A more relevant poll would be the various major stock market indices, and they are floating. They're up and down, and that's a lot more meaningful than these left-wing polls that are trying to say that Trump is a failure. Trump is doing a good job. He's obnoxious personally, but the substance of what he's working on, and I'm not crazy about the way he's doing it, but the kinds of challenges that he's undertaken require extreme actions, and that's what he's doing.
Mr. Ferretti?
I think those who support Trump are happy in the fact that he's doing something. There's plenty of activity coming out of the White House, and I think that a lot of people are satisfied that at least whatever direction the ball's rolling, at least it's going somewhere. And so that probably placates a lot of folks. But Bill, you mentioned that the answer to your question is going to be what lies in the eye of the beholder, and I'll cite to you conservative podcasters like Eric Erickson and Joe Rogan. I'll give you the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. They are very, very critical of Trump's first 100 days. So in their eyes, which are, I would tend to say, are very conservative, they have some misgivings about what Trump has done so far in his first 100 days in office. And I think, personally, in my eyes, I think that the birds have not come home to roost yet. I think what has happened with a lot of these federal agencies and the work they've been doing, I think what's been happening with the gutting of medical research and scientific research that was taking place at NIH, the CDC, and across some of these universities that are having their funding threatened, including Harvard, which fortunately is fighting back. But I think you're going to see the effects of that down the road when we see what happens when cancer research stops, when we see what happens when USAID money that goes abroad to feed starving people when that stops, when you see a lot of these federal agencies that are in place to protect workers and worker safety and develop rules and regulations for the job, when that work stops. Those birds are eventually going to roost, and we're going to pay a price for that. And so I think the 100-day viewpoint is probably a little premature to assess the benefits and the failures of the Trump administration. But I think eventually we're going to feel some pain, just like we're feeling the pain economically right now.
Mike Gallers Jr.
So a few things. Yes, Joe is right. He is doing something. I think a lot of people are at least happy that we have a president who is awake and operating, regardless of how you feel. The 100 days in the executive orders.
He is definitely awake.
He's definitely awake, right? All those Diet Cokes. But I think we got to assess. Domestically, it's a mixed bag. However, when it comes to like tariffs, things like that, I believe tariffs are a tool that can be used effectively. I think where he kind of gets a little tripped up is tariffs kind of across the board. I have no problem with smothering China. I don't believe we should do any business with them personally at all. I think they are one of the most egregious human rights violators. They hate us. I think they're the biggest geopolitical threat to our existence. So I have no problem if they economically smother and collapse. No problem with that. When it comes to the border, him at least fixing the crisis that got overrun with Biden, the border crossings are down. When it comes to foreign policy, at least he has he's gotten most of the hostages back in Gaza. He's put a firm line there, but he's also kind of opened up talks with while keeping the Houthis in check. Talks with Iran, and he's been a very strong supporter of Israel. So in terms of like foreign policy, things like that, he is showing that strength. However, when it comes to domestic issues, the American people do need to see more returns. I think what Bill was talking about with this polling, it's almost unfair, and I'm not talking partisanly. I'm talking about, number one, this is probably the most divisive figure in terms of opinion in American history, right? Everybody's going to have an opinion on him. No one's neutral, right? So this kind of 41% number, he's not really a brand new president. This is a continuation. This is a second term. So maybe a lot of people had that nostalgia for him and then kind of maybe remembered or maybe felt like Mike, where it's like, I don't like what he's doing personally, and came back down to earth. So I think we're seeing that in his polling. When it comes to Harvard, again, people that are friends, I see that as a win. I don't think these elite institutions should be taking our taxpayer money anyway, especially when they encourage anti-Semitism. So there are wins that he's put on the board, but when it comes to if tariffs falter, if working class families are not delivered for, and the gutting and kind of hacking away, that can backfire on the American people. So foreign policy, great, but we have to deliver more domestic wins.
Mr. Schultz.
Sure. The first thing I would say is that I don't believe that the stock market is floating quite like Mike says. It's floating $7,000 underwater of where it was when he took over. So part of the thing that's driving that is he has introduced an entire economy of uncertainty. Because we can talk about his tariffs. Well, which week do you want to talk about? The week when they're coming, or the week when they're paused, or the week when they're coming, or the week when they're paused? This is way too broad of a tariffs idea. Sure, you can do, I think I've said this before. You can do direct tariffs targeted at the steel industry because we build our Navy ships out of steel. And we can't just offshore our steel industry to other countries that we may have a war with, and they'll just quit sending it to us. So, yeah, those kind of issues, everybody agrees about that. But taking whole countries and every single thing they make and putting a tariff on, then pulling it off, then putting the tariff back on and pulling it back off is just playing. It's not governing. And that's... Well, yeah.
I had your mic down. I'm sorry. You said negotiating. Right?
It's negotiating.
Right. Well, it's playing with the futures of whole bunches of American small businesses. And just to say this so I don't have to use this issue in the show, I want to hear from the members of the Archmore family what they intend to do about the small businesses in this community who rely upon exports from places like China, who are going to see either a tariff put on to drive the prices out of this world, or that offshored stuff come back to the U.S. to drive the prices of their raw materials out of this world.
But do you think it's fair that other countries, even if they're our friends, and I don't believe in tariffing our friends, but do you think it's fair that the EU, Canada, can just slap a tariff like on our dairy or on our wood without any consequence? I think that's what Trump's trying to at least do, even if it's a little clumsy.
But it's a little bit of money. It's 1%, 2%, 3%.
Yeah, but why did they get to
now
get the
they're
licks
responding.
in? You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so we're going to respond and just shut it down because we're not going to be able to sell the milk. And what are you going to do for the farmers? Is the Farm Bureau going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and we'll subsidize them more and more?
At least what he's doing, though, I do think, and at least even if it's not well executed, it's a point where why does America have to in the name of free trade, have to get slapped by this country, this country, this country, this country, and we're just supposed to take it?
But if you look,
if
you look historically over the last 30 years, Americans have not been penalized. Our GNP has gone up more than any other country. Our standard of living has gone up more than any other country. So yeah, you can pick isolated points, but if you look at it in net, the Americans have fared exceptionally well compared to other countries.
And Bill, continue. Hold on a second, because we're running out of time. Bill, finish up your point, and we'll move on to the next issue.
I finished my point.
Ah, very good. Did you have the last?
I just wanted to say, in any other aspect of what the American government does, like, for example, the military, it's like we declare war, and then we say, no, it's peace. No, it's war. No, it's peace. Oh, we're negotiating. You don't threaten people with a war. You don't threaten the livelihood of the American people.
Cue the Godfather music. You can threaten people.
On that
but
note,
they call it a crime, as many people with vowels at the end of their name found out. I'm sorry to say.
We got 3 paisans on the panel.
Issue number 3, Michael.
All right, so Governor Morrissey signed into effect. This comes after Youngkin. That cell phones are going to be banned in West Virginia when it comes to the schools. That's great. That's a good first step. But I've been a teacher. Number one, kids are going to sneak those devices in. Number two, as long as you have a culture, unfortunately, in our schools, we've moved from pencil and paper, and it's okay to do interaction once in a while, but we are so screen dependent. There is a laptop and an iPad in every single classroom across every single state. The teachers have to be reliant on technology. Everything is technologically based. There's a movement called personalized learning. Loudoun County, I taught in Loudoun County, right across the border. They are proponents of this, where kids get their own individual devices to work on projects, reducing the role of a teacher to more of a facilitator. So I think the attention in our classroom is not going to come back from the brink, especially West Virginia. We need all the reforms we could get. We are 50th. It's not going to come back for the brink. I don't think the cell phone bill, although it's a good first step, is not enough as long as kids have laptops. Because I'll tell you, these kids are geniuses. I had a kid hacking a Saudi Arabia's Wi-Fi, Saudi Arabia's like web data center to go to certain websites. Like, these kids know how to do these things. So they're going to find a way to access information in the classroom and distract themselves. So I want to pose the question to the group. Do you think this executive order is enough? Do you think more can be done in West Virginia education to get our kids focused and engaged without relying on technology?
Mike Carl.
Well, I'm glad you recognize it as a good step in the right direction, but and you have, at your age and experience, a lot more insight into the technology circumstances that we're talking about here. But I do think it's a step in the right direction. But I totally agree that we need to do more and make sure that the other avenues of distraction aren't facilitated or enabled.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, I think you use the term executive order. It's actually legislative. It's statute as opposed to executive order. Technology is here. We need to incorporate technology. It's unlike when I was a kid. Technology is absolutely indispensable. So you have to know how to manipulate and navigate technology. I think what Marcy was doing here, the governor's doing, was to try to isolate the distraction part of technology and remove that. Tablets to do the homework is necessary. It's going to be done. A cell phone to talk to your buddy across town while in class was, I think, what he was targeting. I think it was you say it was a good first step. It probably was a good first step. I'm not sure it's necessary because a lot of counties had already instituted this themselves. Berkeley County, for example, no cell phones in the classroom. He's just institutionalizing what a lot of the counties are doing.
Larry Schultz.
Yeah, there has to be a way with all this fabulous technology that when some kid gets on TikTok through whatever means in the classroom with the school provided laptop, that a siren goes off. And he's pretty quick learns that he's going to have a lot of problems. So I can't believe that there isn't a technological solution to kids using the laptops.
In a weird way, there is. Like, for example, as a teacher, I can't get on YouTube, but a kid could get on, like, Roblox on the school Wi-Fi. Like, things like that. Like, schools can block. They're, like, selective when it comes to, like, teacher devices, but not with students. Like, there's ways around it.
There's got to be a technological way to do that, and that's what we need, is to enforce those solutions. So, hey, kid, you can play on TikTok at home. We're not in charge of that. But while you're in here, especially when you're using our device, that ain't gonna come up.
And the move from paper pencil's almost non-existent. So we have a lot of issues in schools where, I mean, a lot of students I taught over the years, they didn't know how to even write. Well, like that's a problem. Like, they know how to type, but when it comes to handwriting, things like that, like, we're in trouble for the future. So definitely a concern.
Mr. Ferretti.
We are such a distracted society. Psychological studies out there show you that the average attention span right now of an American is about 13 seconds.
Damn, this show's 2 hours long.
Yeah. Well, just a few minutes ago when Bill Stubblefield was speaking, I caught myself scrolling through my phone.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Hey, you don't know how much I appreciate that remark.
What's going on TikTok today, Joe?
Bill has been banned.
Bill's been banned. And Joe's my buddy. At least he was.
I kid you, Bill. Look at any stock photo of a legislator in West Virginia where they're standing at their desk with a microphone in hand, and look at the people around them in the photo. The other legislators are staring at their lap because they have their cell phone down there. It's funny. That's just the way society works. And if we could somehow stem this tide at the elementary and middle school level by banning cell phones, I'm all for it. And there has to be allowances for the fact that laptops are passed out to these kids as part of the lesson plan of the day. And yeah, they may be able to figure out how to get to the internet when they're not on their lesson plan on the iPad. And as Larry said, there's ways we got to be able to deal with that so that these kids are restricted in what they can do with their technology today in the classroom. But boy, banning cell phones, and I'm sure I've talked to teachers too, and they applaud that, and anything the teachers are for in terms of how to improve their classroom setting, I'm all for.
You know, while you were talking, Joe, Bill was actually scrolling through his cell phone. So
It ain't just school kids.
it did even out. That's a push.
And I was looking for artificial intelligence to come back at you, Joe. So
No chance. I think this legislature did a lot. I think they took a lot of steps to help fix education in West Virginia, not the least of which was bringing the State Board of Education, at least not necessarily under legislative control, but at least making them answerable to the state legislature. They've added additional instruction with the help of aides K through 3. They passed a school discipline bill. I think they've taken more steps perhaps in the last 4 years than a legislature has done in many years that added up previous to it. Could they fund schools more? That's a priority. It depends on what your priorities are. As has been told to me many times by legislators, you fund what your priorities are. Could they be giving teachers raises? They didn't this time around. Could they? Again, it depends what your priorities are. Where do you want to spend your tax dollars? That wasn't the priority this time. Go ahead, Bill.
yeah, I want to use that, Rob, to have a call out for Mike Hornby. Mike and I disagree on certain things, but I don't know of any delegate that spends as much time seriously looking at educational issues as what Mike does. And I think we are all benefiting from Mike's passion, Mike's dedication. So I applaud Mike Hornby for his involvement in education issues.
Let me point out again, this is payday. It is Friday here at
Yeah,
the
but
radio
I'm not being paid. Yeah. So I'm not getting a single penny from Mike Hornby to say that. But
There was something wrong with I was hearing a sucking sound.
yeah, as you know,
Look behind you, Bill. Mike's back there giving you the thumbs up.
I did not know. Forget about it, Hornby. Forget about it. I didn't say anything.
He's loving you. No, but
He gets a paycheck.
you're getting paid, baby. You're getting paid. No, Mike's got kids in the public school, right? And I think one of the complaints that people had for years was from legislators who made a policy on public schools while putting their own children in private schools. Okay? You can see where the problems are with that sort of attitude, right? It's okay for you, but it's not okay for my kids. His kids are in the public schools. So if you're going to have interest in the public schools, everything that you do is going to affect your kids. You're going to try to do your best to make sure that that's a good system. And I think that's what he's trying to do, and a lot of other legislators who have their kids in public schools as well. Mike, 30 seconds. Final thoughts, yours.
We have to do more. I mean, obviously, what the legislature's done is great, but we got to take more steps in education.
All right. So we get back. Larry Schultz, you're on the clock. And then Mike Carl as we wrap up this segment and move on to accident and injury attorneys at SkinnerWinds.com, also by Larry DeMarco and Company at Century 21 Modern Realty Results, and by WVU Medicine. We have the Friday Five Riding Higher with Mike Allers Jr., and welcome back, sir.
All right.
Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
William Stubblefield.
Good morning, Rob.
Via telephone, Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti.
Hello, everybody.
On mute.
Or not. And with issue number 4, Larry Schultz.
All right. As Donald Trump eyes a coal revival here in West Virginia and other coal-producing states, he simultaneously is cutting research into black lung and support for miners who get black lung. With friends like Donald Trump, does the panel agree that the West Virginia coal miners don't need any enemies?
I will note you have criticized Senator Capito in the past for what you regard as inaction regarding some of this legislation, but she has been very vocal in asking for those funds to be restored. So I will make sure.
And somewhat successful.
Well, and there is a part of the black lung protections that are being stripped away called Part 90. And in Part 90, when a person crosses the threshold to becoming at severe risk of black lung problems going forward, Part 90 required the company to give that person a job outside of the actual mining thing. And they're going to cut that out. So as soon as you start coughing too much on the job as a coal miner, adios. See you later. The protections are so basic that only a country that simply wants to send the signal that they do not care what happens to these workers would do what Donald Trump has done.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Let's start first with Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, you mentioned Senator Capito. Senator Capito has been very active in trying to correct some of this, and I applaud her for doing that, and I think she's been somewhat successful. What concerns me, though, there are many other groups that are also being impacted in comparable ways, not necessarily black lung, but in comparable ways. They do not have a champion like Senator Capito, so they are going down this path of total disruption or elimination without anyone coming stand up for them. I come back, and you've heard me speak about this before, and I'll speak about it in the future, is our basic research. What is happening to our National Science Foundation? What's happening to our National Institute of Health? What's happening to our universities? We are losing the seed corn of basic research that the applied researchers such as pharmaceuticals and others that utilize the basic research, we've lost that. And we unfortunately do not have a Senator Capito that will come in and stand up for these other losses that we have. Again, I applaud Senator Capito for what she's doing with the coal miners, and she's representing her constituents very well. Not all going to be reinstated, but some of them will be reinstated for at least for a finite period of time. But there's a lot of other folks that do not have this champion.
Mr. Carl.
Well, the original initial problem is the complexity and the scale of the federal government. There's no doubt there's incredible waste of the public money in terms of the way that federal government has operated, and the effort to reduce that waste inherently will make some mistakes and have unexpected adverse consequences on real important public services and benefits, and it just takes time, and it's fine for the adversely affected people to speak up, but it doesn't mean that we just have to let the government run itself. We need to fix it. It's been wasteful for a long time, and we're just getting started.
Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, Senator Capito has spoken about these issues. I'll acknowledge that. But, she wasn't elected as the spokesperson for West Virginia. She's a legislator. So show me the bill she has introduced to counter this. The Congress is a co-equal branch of government. Not very many Republicans are making much noise about that right now, and I don't want to make this all about Shelley Moore Capito, because frankly, nobody has in the majority has put together a bill that said, "Oh no, you don't. You're not going to do this on this thing. This is our call." They could do it on tariffs. They could do it on these ridiculous, dangerous cuts to the research foundation. That stuff is the seed corn of American exceptionalism. This is why we lead the world, and we're throwing it away. And the guy we hired to make all these changes ran the biggest deficits in the history of the nation, in his first term. He's not going to do this very efficiently. That's not in the cards. So the difficulty is this. I need our elected officials of both parties, if theoretically we have some of both parties, any elected official of any party, to put together bills to stop the 150 or more executive orders whereby our president is taking over the entirety of our government. It's not just the job of the courts, though I think they're doing okay and they will continue to. It is also the job of politicians of both sides not to just complain about it, but to do something within the framework that the Constitution gives them to do it.
Mike Ehlers Jr.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is why we got to approach, especially these cuts to these programs, with a scalpel and not a chainsaw like Musk.
Too late.
put on display. I do think that some people are not aware of these cuts, right? I do believe that President Trump does want to support these coal miners. I do believe that Senator Capito is doing a good job in at least speaking out. But when you talk about legislation, I think this is a larger problem when it comes to our Congress, regardless of party. They don't want. It seems like it's all about the job and the title rather than putting legislation into play. Regardless of your critique of Senator Capito, I think all these senators need to do a little bit more when it comes to putting bills out again. The House of Representatives needs to do more on these things. They need to do their job.
They need to do something.
Just
anything.
something.
Right.
And that's why that's why you can't really get mad at Trump, I think, for executive power, because it's like, well, no one else is doing anything. So, like, good or bad, at least it's something.
I don't know. I have no idea why we are even paying people in the House of Representatives a salary right now. I have no idea what they're doing to earn even a penny of what they're getting paid. They're not doing anything except getting out of the way.
They're not even holding town halls to explain this stuff to their
Joe
constituents.
Joe Ferretti.
Well, this kind of hits home for me because I had to witness my grandfather, who worked in the mines for 32 years. I had to witness him every morning for an hour, sit there and then stand up and then sit back down, coughing the whole time, trying to clear his lungs because he suffered from black lung disease. And to see, I understand, one of the advantages of having Shelley Moore Capito as a representative is she's in leadership now. Okay, she is one of the top dogs in the Republican caucus in the Senate. So I'm hopeful she's going to be able to move people in a direction that will help these miners not only get jobs, but also come home from work after their job safe. But I see a Republican Party that cut black lung funding during the last administration. I see a Republican Party and a president that now wants to relax the regulations on silica dust when you're working in a quarry, which causes a condition similar to black lung disease. That's what I see happening, the relaxing of regulations and a gutting of the very institution, the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, in Morgantown, a gutting of that institution, which develops the safety rules and regulations for mining and other industrial jobs. Those people are gone, and we're not going to have that kind of expertise helping these miners come home safe at night. So I have great concern about the direction that we're going right now. Yes, maybe more miners will have jobs, but at what cost?
Larry, comes back to you to wrap it up.
Yes. The Congress has the power of the purse. This is something that we've known for 250 years. So the Congress, for example, could pass a bill to stop funding the White House, to stop funding golfing trips for the President of the United States, who spent millions and millions and millions of dollars in 100 days going back and forth to Mar-a-Lago to play golf. There's a lot of things the Congress has the power to do. And so while it's okay. It's nice that they get out and talk about it once in a while, though there's plenty of issues they're not talking about, even the Medicaid cuts being one of them. It is time for them to pass some legislation, or to at least introduce some legislation. If you're a senator, you get up and you say, here's what I'm in favor of. And I've learned over the years to say, okay, where's the bill? That's all you do, is you pass bills. And if you say you're in favor of it and don't put a bill up, I got to wonder if you're really serious about being in favor of whatever it is you just said.
One last point, real quick, if I may. We do have to give President Trump credit. He, I think just yesterday, opposes Medicaid cuts. So that's going to create some friction, but we do have to acknowledge that it's significant that he is expressing concerns with that. So maybe that'll light, a fire over more Republicans to speak out against Medicaid cuts.
Maybe he'll sign an executive order banning Medicaid cuts. How about
you
that?
can't pass the tax cuts without cutting Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. The math does not add up.
Yeah.
Issue number 5, Mr. Michael Carl.
Well, we've spoken a lot about the senior U.S. Senator representing West Virginia, but I want to bring up the other one.
Your favorite one.
Is there any possible connection between Jim Justice's power as a U.S. Senator and the curing of his massive financial problems?
Have they been cured?
No, I'm saying, is there any possible connection between those if it does happen?
You're asking us to speculate on potentially criminal activity?
No, I'm not.
Is that what you're
You don't
insinuating?
have to call it criminal. Just question is,
Yeah, when you have enough money, not paying your taxes is not really a criminal thing.
Well, you might as well keep going, Larry. You're on.
First of all, I've always thought that if Donald Trump was born in West Virginia, his name would have been Jim Justice. A billionaire with giant financial problems, who doesn't pay all his taxes maybe every time. And so, it's not going to, in the end, make a giant bit of difference. Jim Justice, unlike Shelley Moore Capito, isn't even out talking about this stuff. He's flying in from the Greenbrier every day, I presume, right? And so he's not going to have time. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired once I take an airplane flight. If I take 2 of them every day, that's a real problem. It makes me a little tired, and I think I'm a little younger and maybe even in a little better shape than him. So, there's just not going to be anything of substance coming from that guy.
Mr. Allers,
Listen,
tread lightly.
we have to give Senator Justice his due. Name one other senator that has brought both parties together when it comes to at least good vibes on the Hill with Baby Dog. Nobody has.
Lord.
Look, listen. We have to acknowledge.
I think we need to get the Bette Midler vote on that.
we have to acknowledge. You see Republicans, you see Democrats, you see a point of unity that you do not see anywhere else from anybody else.
People love the dog. They do.
So,
Joe Ferretti.
Bobby Bird has to be turning over in his grave. To Mike's question, there's one way that his financial difficulties will be linked to his service as a U.S. Senator, and that is he will be able to engage in the insider trading that all of them in Congress engage in. Witness the shenanigans that took place before Trump announced a pause on the tariffs with some questionable stock selling and buying that took place by some members of Congress, and some were unabashed and admitted it. That is a whole system that needs to be reformed. These folks get insider information just by nature of their job. I don't criticize them for that. They're going to be subjected to getting all kinds of information. But for them to be able to trade on it in the stock market and through other investments is at a minimum, an ethical violation, if not criminal. And the reforms need to take place.
I actually think
until those reforms come, it would be stupid for Trump or for Jim Justice not to trade on the knowledge that he's privy to in order maybe to fix some of his financial problems.
That actually opens a possibility because he ain't all that bright.
Well, I was going to say,
Mike, go ahead.
I think there is a bipartisan bill. I think Anna Paulina Luna is the Republican. I forgot who's the Democrat. I think it's like Ro Khanna, I think, right now to ban insider trading
You'll never see the floor.
from Congress. So we can hope
Yeah.
that at least that happens.
Yeah, let me put some flesh on to Mike's very good point about Senator Justice. Couple so years ago, he was considered the most wealthy man in West Virginia. Forbes recently says he owes approximately $1 billion in debt. That's a lot of money. And he is on the excuse that he cannot find a place to live in D.C. That means there are no hotels that meet his standards. He flies to and from D.C. to Greenbrier Valley Airport on a daily basis. That's 15 minutes from his home. He has the exclusive right, not exclusive, that's the wrong word. He is one of the few planes that are allowed to fly into DCA, Dulles International Airport, not Dulles, Washington, D.C. International Airport on a regular basis. On a couple of days, his is the only plane that's able to fly in and out. It costs approximately $7,000 for this plane on a daily basis. The question is, who pays for this? It cannot be paid for, I don't believe, by the Senate with his pro dem. It cannot legally be paid for by his campaign funds, as you have to put some separation how these campaign dollars are being utilized. That kind of leaves it to the fact he paying for himself, which he says he is, but if it's $1 billion in debt, how can he afford to do that? There's a lot of questions here. I think he is doing what the voters of West Virginia voting him in and asking him to do. One thing, and that one thing is he provides a reliable vote for President Trump.
I do think, real quick, I do believe each senator and congressman gets
some amount, but not $7,000 a day.
Okay, I was about to say, because a lot of them fly home on the weekend, so I wonder if it's just kind of transferred.
But all of them fly home on a commercial. Some of them fly home in business. A lot of them fly home in economy. That's different than flying home every day in a private jet.
We got to protect baby dog. We got to do what we need to do.
No, excuse me. Let's not belittle this, Mike, by making a casual joke off the side. This is something that's very serious, and we need to. I think more needs to be found out about this.
I did think Mike's comment was funny, though.
It was funny, but Larry Schultz's comment earlier was funny, and people gave him credit for being inappropriate.
Mr. Carl.
And excuse me, and Joe Ferretti's comment much earlier was not funny at all.
Darn funny.
And it was totally inappropriate.
Scrolling through Bill's commentary.
All I would say is this whole circumstance with him, with Justice, why he was governor, now that he's senator, and the way he's conducting himself as a U.S. senator is absurd and an embarrassment to West Virginia.
You have been very critical of Jim Justice from his days as governor, Justice, even back to his first term. What's the genesis of is it a dislike for him personally or just his professional performance as a governor and now a senator?
Well, it's what he's done, and that's generated a personal dislike, but it's what he's done and most importantly what he hasn't done. And he is it's almost like a ego trip for him, and he was fortunate that from his own system as governor, because he didn't have to physically be in the governor's office, but now this position requires legally that he be present on the floor of the U.S. Senate to vote at all, and so he is just a complete waste, as far as I'm concerned, of West Virginia support and representation.
Plus, he was initially elected as a Democrat.
You think that's why Mike doesn't like him?
That's one of the
I
reasons.
think Big
don't
Jim
like
was on the phone while he was speaking. I think that's what caused it.
I was surprised that your earlier guest did not give Jim Justice credit for the surge in receipts by the state treasurer's office. Isn't that what we say? That the previous guy is the guy who caused what happened in the first 100 days.
Final
Right?
thoughts. You get 8 seconds apiece after the break, and we're back in 2 minutes. Final thoughts. We start on the phone. Joe Ferretti, go.
For those of us holding out hope that life begins at 70, I give you Bill Belichick.
Larry Schultz.
Look at the Community Alternatives to Violence Facebook page for Songs of Hope. It's May 10th, a one-man guitar musical and dinner. Time's running out to get those tickets.
Time's also
Don't miss
running out on your 8 seconds. Bill Stubblefield.
Get out and enjoy planting those Mayflowers.
Mr. Michael Carl.
Cards are still ahead of the Pirates.
So, Mike Ellis Jr.
Go Yankees.
That was pretty effective and efficient, guys. Dave Ramsey Show is coming up next. Have a great weekend. This is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg and TV 10. And we'll talk with you again in 70 short hours.